Alright, so I've got this Harbor Freight 3-shelf cart that I went and got so that I could organize my shed a little bit more, get the tools instead of having them scattered all over my desk and all over the countertops and just basically all over the place. I bought a tool bag that I'm going to load my electrical or electrician's tools and things of that nature in, some of my pliers, and I've got this tool set, Craftsman tool set that I've had for probably 20 years or so. And it's been a very good tool set. I lost my 21mm socket, 1/2-inch drive somehow. I'm pretty sure where it went, but I just bought that to replace it to get my sockets back up to full. But as you can see, the case is way too wide to fit in the cart that way. If I turn it this way, it takes up a good bit of the upper shelf, and it doesn't really sit down in. It's got to be forced in, and then once it gets in, you can't really open the latches, so you have to leave it cracked all the time, and then it won't open because it hits the other side. So what I did was I've got this 3/8 plywood here that's was a furniture grade. It's beat up because I used it for all kinds of stuff. So I've got it. I laid out all my sockets, a couple of my 3/8 extensions, my 1/4-inch one of my 1/4-inch extensions, and on a piece of it that's marked out to be the width of the shelf area, 8 inches deep. And I'm going to put some sides on it that are about 1.5 inches tall, so it'll clear the sockets. This will be the bottom shelf, and then I'll just set this tray, make this into a tray to sit on top of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out these areas. I'm going to cut them out. I'm going to put 1/4-inch plywood on the back so that everything just drops down in nice and neatly. And with this depth, I'll easily be able to grab the top half of the sockets to pull them out of it, pick whichever ones I need. Same thing for the ratchets. I'm going to leave them faced up this way so I can just grab that if I need to be able to get them out of the slot and just go from there. But that way it'll only take up 8 inches of the cart. They'll double stack. The top tray will actually sit down below the lip so it won't fall or anything. I'll probably make a little wooden strip with holes in it for screwdrivers and mount it along the end, probably the end here. I've got some magnetic bars I'll probably mount on the sides for wrenches and things like that. I haven't made up my mind. I might not use the magnetic bars on this. I might just mount them on the wall. But I am probably going to do a short strip with some holes in it for screwdrivers, maybe some slots for wrenches. I just haven't made up my mind yet. But for now, this is the project for now, because this is the main issue, is getting rid of this case, getting the tools down in the cart so it's easier to move around and organize, so I can start working on some of the things I need to do in here. I mean, I've got this Perkins 4108 that's in pieces over here I need to get working on. I've got the Yanmar 3HM that was running. I just wanted to clean it up and put some new parts on it. I'm starting to think I won't finish this today because I've been distracted by several things, but I've got the one tray laid out. And you can see I've got my 1/2-inch ratchet, my 3/8 ratchet, my 1/4-inch ratchet, my 3/8 ratchet laid out. I've got the adapter that allows me to put sockets, or 3/8 sockets anyway, on it, stick it in my impact wrench or drill to use them as a driver for the sockets. I laid out all my deep well sockets so I can cut them out. I laid out the 2 different sizes of spark plug wrenches. I laid out my Allen tip sockets. That's for universal. And here I've got the little nut drivers that came in that toolkit. There was a little bit of room here, so I figured I would just drill the 1/4-inch holes so I can drop them down in here. Okay, here the trays are laid out and holes drilled. I decided to try to, instead of trying to drill exact size holes on the ends, since I only had a couple that bits would have fit anyway, I'd just go ahead and drill holes that I could get a jigsaw or the scroll saw, depending on which one I decide to use into. Now, on stuff like this with square corners, a lot of people, oh, you got to drill every corner and then you cut into the corners with your jigsaw. I can cut a corner with the jigsaw faster than I can accurately mark and drill those corners. So, and with the scroll saw, I can cut that corner just by turning it on the blade. So, like I said, depending on what I decide to cut it with. Okay, here's the trays all cut out. Some things still need a little bit of work, like this one Allen socket here. I need to take a little bit more off of this corner right here to get it to be able to sit in there squarely. The ratchet holes slots came out really well. I'm real pleased with them. Considering the limited practice I've had with that scroll saw, I wound up cutting everything with the scroll saw. Like I said, or almost everything. I cut this slot, this one, and this one. These four with the saber saw, jigsaw, what have you. Then I came inside and started using the scroll saw, because these curves at the end here were pretty hard with the saber saw, even though I've got some thin blades on it. And like I said, with the scroll saw, with just the one single hole I had drilled in these, I cut all the way around them, and you can see how well those 90s came out. You can see in this one the little bit of darkened area, because it kind of burns it a little bit, and it makes the blade go dull faster, because just like any other hardened steel tool, if you get it too warm, it loses its temper and it'll go lose its edge and dull up a lot faster. So I pretty much destroyed that blade cutting these out. Part of it just being out of practice. If I could have moved faster, I could have kept the blade cooler, and it would have lasted a lot longer. So I've got to do some sanding. Some things are a little tight. These 1/4-inch drive sockets are so snug I kind of push them in, and some of them are a little bit slack, but most of them are so tight. All it's going to take is some sanding. I've got to get it sanded, labeled, the handles for the end of this made that'll support that upper tray. Okay, after sanding off the splinters and a couple rough edges, and then a few areas where the sockets were a little tight because my line wavered a hair or two, I went ahead and glued the backings on. Now, to glue the backings on, I knew I needed a flat surface, so I came inside to the table here. I took another board. It's not quite as wide as these are, but since this is plywood, it's not going to bend very easily in just a little 1/2-inch section. So I put this on top of it, grabbed a couple of 10-pound barbells and put on the ends. Then I took a gallon of Gatorade and a gallon Gatorade bottle that was empty and filled it with water, because that's about 10 pounds a piece. It's real close to 10 pounds each. I've got two 10-pound dumbbells. That's 40 pounds. That should be sufficient pressure on those, or should have been, because they're dried now. The wood glue doesn't take very long to dry. It does take a little bit longer to cure. But with the purpose that these are going to be put to, drying is good enough for me to go ahead and put them in service, because I'm just putting the tools in them today. I'm not going to be using the tools today, so I'm just going to be setting things up. But dry is sufficient, and then tomorrow I'm sure they'll be cured. Alright, as you can see, tool trays are in. The upper one goes all the way back and butts up to the very end of the shelf. And I've got another piece of poplar somewhere. I was using it as a back guide on or a backstop on my drill press over there when I was drilling these holes. That I'm going to put on this end as a screwdriver holder. So I'll do that in just a few minutes here. It's the next project on the list. But as you can see, everything came out really nice. I raised the little 1/4-inch sockets up to make them easier to take out just by putting some pieces of dowel underneath them and gluing it down. I didn't feel like cutting out squares of 1/8, so I just went ahead and cut lengths of dowel and stuck in there. They won't move. They're firmly in place, but they're real easy to take out now. Even the smallest ones, I can get an end and get them out. I did the same thing for this little adapter. There's a little piece of dowel in there, and it's just perfect for pushing that up high enough to be able to get it out. Everything else is good enough. I mean, the sockets, yeah, most of the store-bought type things like this, they're upside down. face that way so that you're not looking at but doing it that way, they set down in better and I can grab them to pull them out. Of course, since it is the top rack, I guess I could have drilled holes to accommodate them, but then I wouldn't have had anything to grab to pull them out. Yeah, so that'll allow me to take them out easier. So, and I made the handles on the ends are just strips of wood with pieces of dowel to pick them up so I can get my fingers inside there. Let me stop this for a second so I can move that shelf, or let's see, I don't think I can move it one-handed. Well, I'll pull it up like that I can. And there's the lower shelf. Hey, as you can see, all the sockets are laid out on it. All the half-inch here, half-inch here. I've got the metric 3/8 here. I've got the standard 3/8 here, both the 5 or the 6-point and the 12-point. Then I've got the standard and the metric 1/4 inch over on this end. Got my 1/4 inch extension, or one of them, and my 3/8 extensions. Now, because of the nuts and the bolts that come through on the corners that hold the legs or what have you of this shelf unit on, I could have either notched them out, which I didn't really want to. I knew I was going to have this issue when I got done with the tray. Or I could have just left them there and just butted up to them. Now, by butting up to them, since I'm hardly ever going to be removing that shelf, I put the handles on the ends of it, mainly just to use as standoffs to hold up the upper shelf, so they act as a spacer, really. But it allowed me a gap back here for putting some of my half-inch, or the half-inch extensions I use the most in, my longer 3/8 extension, and that drill extension that I showed earlier. So that way I can stick those there in that gap. Then I can set the upper tray on, and it just barely clears those nuts. So that works out just right. And I've got all my, or some of my screwdrivers lined out here, and the 1/4 inch screwdriver. So I need to make that rack for this end to hold the screwdrivers. Alright, there we go. There's the screwdriver rack mounted on the end of the cart. I call it a screwdriver rack. It's only screwdrivers up to this point here. I've got 3 sizes of flat, different length shafts. I've got, well, call it 4 sizes of flat because I've got this one over here. Then I've got the little bitty, pretty much jeweler size flat and Phillips, a number 2 Phillips. I don't think I have a number 3 as far as handheld screwdriver anymore. I couldn't find it anyway. Then I've got these 2 things I got off eBay that I love. They were very inexpensive, and I was worried they would be cheap, but I've actually been kind of impressed with the quality. The aluminum's not as easy to hold. It does have the knurls in it as like a rubberized handle or whatever, but these are hollow, and they each came with like 8 to 10 bits. So I've got Torx and Allen in this one, and Phillips head and flat in this one, and these are jeweler sizes, so they go down from tiny up to like this blade is probably getting close to the widest flat. I think there's a one up from that. And then the Phillips sizes are great too. I went ahead and put my nail sets out here, so they're handy. My magnetic pickup tool, glass cutter just because I came across it, and then some of the air gun stuff I use most often, or compressor stuff. This is my blowgun, a different tip for the blowgun, the thing for inflating basketballs and footballs and stuff, and then a chuck for inflating tires. So I just went ahead and stuck that stuff in there because I figured it would be handy and there was no sense wasting the space. There was plenty of space to use up. So, but there it is. Like I said, that's just simple. I had this scrap of wood already cut. It was like 1 3/4 inches wide. So I just measured everything out, marked it for the screwdrivers, angled the ends, sanded it all, drilled the holes on the drill press, and mounted it to the end. So between these racks, making it a lot easier to get to these tools and to the sockets underneath, which I really, really like. I like the way this came out. And like I said, just little chintzy handles on the end. Those are more or less standoffs. I can use them for handles, but I doubt I'll be taking this out of the cart very often. So they're more or less standoffs to hold this tray up high enough above those sockets I can literally pick it up here, or I can use the handles on the ends to lift it up. And then the rest of it just comes down to organization.